The dying star cast its final crimson light across the Varyni megastructure, painting the ancient metal in shades of blood and shadow. Alex Carter pressed his palm against the Odyssey's observation deck, watching the derelict station slowly rotate in its eternal dance around the stellar corpse. His hazel eyes traced invisible paths through the debris field, mapping gravitational eddies that the ship's AI couldn't even detect. "Carter, get back to your station," Captain Harrow's gruff voice crackled through the comm. "We're here to salvage tech, not sightsee." Alex pushed off from the viewport, his navigator's jumpsuit catching on a loose bolt. The scar on his left hand, a souvenir from his first solo navigation through the Kepler storms, throbbed as he gripped the railing. Something about this place felt different. Wrong. The gravitational fields weren't behaving as they should around a dead structure. "Captain," Alex's voice carried the careful tone he used when about to ignore protocol, "I'm detecting an anomalous signal from the central hub. Energy signature suggests active systems." Through the bridge speakers, Harrow's sigh was audible across 3 decks. "The Varyni have been extinct for 3 centuries, Carter. Whatever you're reading is probably just residual power bleeding from a failing containment cell." But Alex was already moving, his fingers dancing across his navigation console. The anomaly pulsed in a pattern, not random decay, but something almost like a heartbeat. He pulled up the salvage team's deployment schedule, noting a 2-hour window before they reached the outer sectors. "I'm taking Scanner 7 to investigate," he announced, already sealing his environmental suit. "Carter, you are not authorized." The hangar bay doors were already opening. Scanner 7 was little more than a glorified shuttle, but Alex knew its systems better than most people knew their own names. He jury-rigged half the components himself after the last overhaul budget got slashed. The little craft responded to his touch like an extension of his nervous system as he navigated through the debris field, following the signal deeper into the megastructure's heart. The Varyni had been legendary builders. Even in decay, their architecture inspired awe. Curved corridors that seemed to flow like frozen water, surfaces that caught light and held it like captured stars. Alex's spatial reasoning kicked into overdrive as he mapped the pathways ahead, his mind constructing a 3-dimensional model that no AI could match. The signal grew stronger, leading him to a chamber that hummed with barely contained energy. In the center, surrounded by crystalline matrices that pulsed with ethereal light, stood a stasis pod, and inside, Alex's breath caught. The figure was unmistakably Varyni. The luminous silver-blue skin, the delicate bone structure, the intricate patterns that even in stasis seemed to shift and dance. But stasis pods didn't stay active for 3 centuries. The power readings were all wrong, systems failing, life support dropping toward critical. His fingers flew over Scanner 7's engineering panel, rerouting power, bypassing failing circuits with the kind of intuitive problem-solving that had made him the Odyssey's navigator despite his youth. Sweat beaded his forehead as he worked, knowing that one wrong calculation would either kill the pod's occupant or trigger whatever security systems still guarded this place. The pod's lid cracked open with a hiss of escaping atmosphere. Who disturbs the vigil of the last daughter? The voice appeared in his mind like a whisper of starlight, carrying fear and confusion in equal measure. Alex's hands froze over his controls as those star-like eyes opened, fixing on him with an intensity that seemed to peer directly into his soul. "I'm Alex," he said aloud, his voice rough with emotion he couldn't name. "I'm here to help." The mental voice carried surprise, then something that might have been hope. "The small ones who count stars. I am Lyxa of the deep paths, and I am lost." The chamber's lights suddenly blazed crimson. Ancient warning klaxons began their mournful song as security systems, dormant for centuries, awakened to defend their charge. Alex didn't hesitate. He scooped Lyxa from the pod, her weight surprising him with its fragility, and carried her to his shuttle. "Hold on," he murmured, feeling her grip his jumpsuit with fingers that trembled like settling leaves. "I've got you." Scanner 7's engines screamed as Alex pushed them beyond their rated capacity, weaving through corridors that were rapidly sealing themselves. Behind them, the ancient defenses awakened fully. Energy barriers, hunter drones, gravitational mines that could crush a ship to atoms. But Alex flew like a man possessed, his intuition guiding him through paths that existed only in the spaces between the Varyni's logical defenses. They burst from the megastructure just as the central hub collapsed into itself, taking the ancient security systems with it. In his arms, Lyxa shuddered, her patterns flickering like candle flames in a storm. The memories, she whispered in his mind, so many star paths lost, so many worlds that will never be found. Not lost, Alex said, his voice fierce with determination, not if I have anything to say about it. As Scanner 7 limped back toward the Odyssey, Alex felt the weight of something enormous settling onto his shoulders. In saving Lyxa, he'd done more than rescue a survivor of an extinct species. He'd awakened something that the galaxy had tried to forget. The dream of exploration, of pushing beyond the known into the infinite dark between stars. The Concord wouldn't let that dream survive without a fight. Captain Harrow's face had cycled through several shades of red by the time Alex finished his report. The Odyssey's medical bay hummed quietly around them, where Lyxa lay connected to every diagnostic system the ship possessed. Her patterns had stabilized to a faint, steady glow, but the readings told a story of near-complete system failure and centuries of deterioration. "Let me understand this," Harrow said, his voice deadly quiet. "You defied direct orders, risked a valuable scanner, and brought aboard what amounts to a galactic archaeological treasure without authorization." "I brought aboard a person," Alex corrected, not backing down despite the captain's glare. "A living person who was dying in that pod." "A Varyni person. The last Varyni person, according to your scans." Harrow rubbed his temples. "Do you have any idea what the Concord is going to say when they learn about this?" As if summoned by his words, the bridge comm crackled to life. "Odyssey, this is Concord Command. You have 30 minutes to report to Beacon Station Epsilon for priority debriefing. All salvage materials and biological specimens are to be transferred to Concord custody upon arrival." Harrow and Alex exchanged glances. Word traveled fast in the Concord, too fast for comfort. "They already know," Alex murmured. "Of course they know. The moment you activated that medical bay, every system on this ship logged the readings and transmitted them through the standard channels." Harrow's expression was grim. "She's not a person to them, Carter. She's a resource, a library of extinct knowledge that they'll strip mine until there's nothing left." In the medical bay's isolation unit, Lyxa stirred. Her eyes opened, clearer now than they'd been in the shuttle, and she turned toward the two humans with something approaching alertness. "I can hear your thoughts at the edges." Her mental voice was stronger now, though still fragile. "You speak of the Concord. They are the ones who united the star paths under one banner?" "That's one way to put it," Alex said, moving to her bedside. "They're the governing body for most of the galaxy, and right now they want to study you." Study. Lyxa's patterns flickered with what Alex was beginning to recognize as distress. "As they studied my people before the silent years began, before the star paths went dark and the deep paths were sealed." "What do you mean?" Harrow stepped closer, his salvage captain's instincts overriding his protocol concerns. "The official histories say the Varyni went extinct due to some kind of plague or civil war." Lyxa's laugh was a sound like crystal chimes breaking. "Histories written by those who benefited from our silence. The Concord did not exist when my people sailed the deep paths, but its predecessor species, they feared what we might find in the dark between stars, feared what we might become." "You're saying the Concord had something to do with your people's extinction?" Alex felt a chill run down his spine. "I carry the memories of 10,000 generations of navigators," Lyxa said, her hand reaching out to touch his. Her skin was warm despite its ethereal appearance, and where her fingers made contact, Alex felt a strange tingling sensation. "The star maps are written in my very bones, and those maps, they show paths the Concord has spent centuries ensuring remain hidden." The ship's comm system crackled again. "This is Commander Vren of the Concord Enforcement Division. Odyssey, you are ordered to maintain current heading. Any deviation will be considered an act of sedition." Through the viewports, the sleek lines of a Concord interceptor became visible, its weapon systems powered but not yet locked on. "Well," Harrow muttered, "that escalated quickly." Alex studied the tactical display, his navigator's mind automatically calculating vectors and possibilities. "Captain, we could lose them in the Helix Nebula. The gas density would mask our signature, and those interceptor pilots won't know the safe passages. And commit treason against the Concord in the process." But Harrow was looking at the display too, and Alex could see him weighing options. "There is another way," Lyxa's voice whispered in both their minds. "In my memory paths, I carry knowledge of shortcuts through space, routes that bypass the normal star lanes. But to use them, I would need to trust you completely, and you would need to trust me." "What kind of routes?" Alex asked. Lyxa's patterns brightened, and for a moment Alex saw her as she might have been in her species' prime, radiant, confident, a navigator whose knowledge spanned galaxies. "The deep paths. Conduits through folded space that my people use to explore the far reaches. Most have been sealed or forgotten, but some still sing with the old songs." "Commander Vren is hailing us," the bridge officer reported. Harrow looked from Alex to Lyxa, his weathered face creased with the weight of command decisions. "If we do this, there's no going back. The Concord will brand us outlaws." "And if we don't," Alex said quietly, "they'll dissect the last link to the greatest exploration heritage the galaxy has ever known." "I have been alone for so long," Lyxa's mental voice carried exhaustion that went bone deep, "watching my people's dreams die in the darkness. But in you, Navigator Alex Carter, I sense something familiar, the same hunger for the unknown that drove my ancestors to the edge of creation itself." Through the medical bay's speakers, Commander Vren's voice cut through their deliberation like a blade. "This is your final warning, Odyssey. Prepare for boarding." Harrow closed his eyes for a long moment, then opened them with the expression of a man who'd just thrown the dice on his entire career. "Mr. Carter, plot a course for the Helix Nebula. Emergency acceleration." "Yes, sir." Alex was already moving, but he paused at Lyxa's bedside. "That trust thing you mentioned, it goes both ways. I'm putting my crew, my ship, and my career on the line for you." "And I am placing the memories of my entire people in your hands," Lyxa replied, her fingers squeezing his briefly. "We are bound now, Navigator Carter, by necessity, by choice, and perhaps by something more." As the Odyssey leaped toward the swirling gases of the Helix Nebula, Alex felt the weight of her words settle into his chest like a warm stone. Behind them, the Concord interceptor gave chase, but Alex was no longer thinking about escape routes or tactical maneuvers. He was thinking about the way Lyxa's eyes had lit up when she spoke of the deep paths, and the strange certainty growing in his heart that his life had just changed in ways he couldn't yet comprehend. The real journey was only beginning. The Helix Nebula embraced the Odyssey like a multicolored shroud, its swirling gases playing havoc with both sensors and communications. Alex guided the ship through passages that existed more in his intuition than on any chart, following gravitational currents that most navigators couldn't even detect. Behind them, Commander Vren's interceptor had lost their trail in the nebula's chaotic interference patterns. "We can't hide here forever," Harrow observed, watching the sensor readings fluctuate wildly. "Fuel consumption in this soup is triple normal, and we're running low on supplies." Alex was about to respond when Lyxa's voice whispered urgently in his mind. "There is a way station, an old place built by my people as a rest stop between the deep paths. The resonance signature suggests it still functions." "Lyxa says there's a station nearby," Alex relayed. "Varyni construction." "And you trust alien memories that are centuries old?" Harrow's skepticism was warranted, but Alex had already felt the rightness of Lyxa's guidance. Her genetic maps weren't just knowledge, they were lived experience, passed down through generations of navigators. "I trust her," Alex said simply. The way station materialized out of the nebula like a ghost ship, a graceful structure of living metal and crystalline matrices anchored to a massive asteroid. Its docking bays still glowed with welcoming light, and the Odyssey's sensors detected atmosphere and artificial gravity. "Impossible," muttered Chief Engineer Kowalski. "The power source alone should have died centuries ago." "Varyni engineering," Lyxa said with quiet pride. "We built for the long dark between stars." As the Odyssey docked, Alex helped Lyxa to the airlock. She was still weak, relying on a support frame to walk, but her patterns had grown brighter since leaving the medical bay. The station's atmosphere suited her better than the ship's standard mix. The moment they stepped aboard the way station, the lights brightened in greeting, and a melodic voice filled the corridors. "Welcome, daughter of the deep paths. Welcome, small star counter who carries the scent of soul on his breath." Alex felt Lyxa's sudden joy like a physical warmth. "Sylis, old friend, you endure." A holographic figure materialized before them, geometric patterns that shifted and flowed in a vaguely humanoid shape, beautiful in its alien mathematics. The rogue AI that had been Lyxa's protector, waiting centuries for her return. "I have maintained the vigil as programmed," Sylis said, its voice carrying harmonics that spoke of vast computing power. "Though I confess, young navigator, your presence was not anticipated in my calculations." "Alex Carter," he introduced himself. "I'm the one who found her." "Yes, the one who solved the stasis chamber's failing matrices with purely intuitive reasoning." Sylis circled Alex, studying him with sensors he couldn't see. "Most interesting, most promising." Captain Harrow and the rest of the crew were exploring the station's docking bay, marveling at technology that made their ship look primitive by comparison. But Alex's attention was focused on the interplay between Lyxa and her ancient guardian. "Sylis, can you help us?" Lyxa asked. "The Concord pursues us. They would cage the star maps and use them for their own purposes." The Concord. Sylis's patterns flickered with something that might have been disdain. "The inheritors of those who doomed our people to silence. Yes, daughter, I can help, but first the navigator must prove himself worthy of the trust you place in him." The station around them shifted, corridors reconfiguring themselves into new patterns. Alex found himself standing in a vast chamber filled with three-dimensional star charts, not holographic projections, but actual constructs of light and force that mapped stellar relationships in ways his mind could barely grasp. "Navigate the paradox route," Sylis commanded. "From here to the Andorian depths without using the primary star lanes. Show me you can think as the Varyni think." Alex studied the charts, feeling overwhelmed by their complexity. Traditional navigation relied on established jump points and hyperspace lanes. But this was something else entirely. The Varyni hadn't just traveled through space, they'd found ways to fold it, to slip between dimensions where distance had different meanings. "Don't think," Lyxa whispered in his mind. "Feel. The paths sing to those who know how to listen." Alex closed his eyes and let his spatial reasoning take over. The star charts weren't just maps, they were music, mathematical symphonies that described the fundamental harmonies of space-time itself. He began to move through the chamber, his hands tracing routes that existed in the spaces between the obvious pathways. "Here," he said, pointing to a confluence of gravitational currents near a binary pulsar system. "If you approach from this angle, the tidal forces create a natural fold. And here," his finger traced a path through what looked like empty space, "the dark matter concentrations form a tunnel that bypasses three stellar clusters." Remarkable. Sylis's patterns brightened with what Alex was learning to recognize as approval. "You see not with calculations but with understanding." "Very well, Navigator Carter. I name you friend to the deep paths." The chamber dissolved around them, returning them to the station's main corridor. But something had changed in how Sylis looked at Alex, and in how Lyxa looked at him as well. "Now," Sylis continued, "we must speak of urgent matters. The Concord's reach extends far, but their knowledge of the deep paths remains limited. I can provide you with coordinates to a place they have never found, a sanctuary world where the last secrets of my people lie hidden." "What kind of secrets?" Harrow had rejoined them, his expression showing he'd caught enough of the conversation to understand its importance. The complete star maps, Lyxa's mental voice carried awe. "Everything my people discovered in 10,000 years of exploration. Worlds beyond the edge of the galaxy, dimensions where life takes forms we cannot imagine, the locations of artifacts that could transform civilization itself." "And the Concord would use this knowledge how?" Alex asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. "To maintain their control," Sylis replied. "They are not explorers, Navigator Carter. They are administrators, bureaucrats who fear the chaos that comes with true discovery. They would classify these worlds, restrict access, turn exploration into a carefully managed resource extraction operation. Lyxa's patterns flickered with remembered pain, as they did to my people, slowly, carefully, until we found ourselves contained within spaces too small for our dreams. The sanctuary world, how do we reach it? Alex was already thinking ahead, mapping possibilities. Through the deep paths, Sylis said, routes that require both Varyni genetic maps and human intuitive navigation to traverse safely. A partnership such as has never existed before. Alex felt Lyxa's gaze on him, her star-like eyes reflecting depths he was only beginning to fathom. The trust between them was growing into something more complex, more dangerous. Every choice they made bound them closer together, and every step took them further from the safe, predictable world he'd known. "There's something else," Sylis continued, its voice carrying warning tones. "Commander Vren is not simply a Concord enforcer. His ship carries technology designed specifically to track and contain Varyni genetic signatures. They have been preparing for this possibility for decades." "They knew?" Harrow's face darkened. "They knew there might be survivors?" "The Concord knows many things they do not share," Sylis replied, "but now we must prepare for departure. The nebula that hides us will not confuse their sensors much longer." As the crew worked to resupply from the way station's stores, Alex found himself alone with Lyxa in the station's observation lounge. The nebula swirled beyond the transparent aluminum viewports, painting her features in shades of rose and gold. "Are you afraid?" she asked, her voice carrying both words and thoughts. "Terrified," Alex admitted, "but also exhilarated. My whole life I've dreamed of seeing what's beyond the edge of the known galaxy, of finding something truly new. And I have dreamed of finding someone who could understand what we lost." Her hand found his, her touch warm and electric. "In saving me, Navigator Carter, you may have saved something far greater than one person's life." "Alex," he said softly. "My friends call me Alex." "Then I am honored to be your friend, Alex Carter." Her patterns brightened with what he was learning to recognize as her version of a smile. "Though I suspect, before our journey ends, we may become something more than friends." The truth of it settled between them like a bridge being built across impossible distances. As the Odyssey prepared to depart the way station, Alex realized that his old life, the quiet routine of salvage missions and standard navigation routes, was ending. Whatever lay ahead would test not just his skills as a navigator, but his courage as a man willing to risk everything for love and discovery. The deep paths were calling, and Alex Carter was ready to answer. The Tempest Nebula writhed around the Odyssey like a living thing, its gas clouds crackling with electromagnetic storms that could fry a ship's systems at a moment's notice. Alex stood at his navigation console, one hand resting lightly on Lyxa's shoulder as she shared her genetic memories with him through their growing psychic connection. The path spirals inward, her mental voice guided him through the chaos. Where the gas burns blue-white, the gravitic currents form a stable corridor, but beware the dark patches, there space itself is wounded. Alex's fingers danced across his controls, making micro-adjustments that kept them threading through passages no wider than the ship itself. The AI navigation systems had given up hours ago, their logic circuits unable to process the paradoxical readings from this place where normal physics went to die. "Hull stress at 60%, Chief Engineer Kowalski reported, his voice tight with concern. "These gravitic shears are playing hell with our structural integrity." "Steady as she goes," Captain Harrow commanded, though Alex could hear the strain in his voice too. They'd been pushing through uncharted space for 3 days now, following Lyxa's genetic maps toward the sanctuary world that Sylis had promised them. But every parsec took them further from any hope of Concord rescue, and deeper into dangers that predated galactic civilization. "There," Lyxa whispered, her patterns brightening. "Do you see it? The confluence where 3 storm streams meet." Alex saw it, an eye of relative calm in the nebula's heart, where the swirling gases formed a natural amphitheater around a cluster of crystalline structures. But he also saw something else, something that made his navigator's instincts scream warnings. "We're not alone," he announced, his hands already moving to defensive configurations. "Multiple contacts bearing 27 Mark V, fast and coming this way. The first of the void shrikes burst from the nebula's concealment like nightmares given form. They weren't ships in any conventional sense. They were living creatures the size of shuttlecraft, their translucent bodies pulsing with bioluminescent patterns as they rode the electromagnetic currents. Predators that hunted in the deep places between stars, attracted by the Odyssey's energy signature. "Evasive maneuvers!" Harrow barked, but Alex was already moving, his intuitive navigation sending the ship into a spiraling dive that followed the nebula's natural currents. The shrikes followed, their hunting cries echoing through subspace like the songs of dying stars. "Weapons are useless in this soup," Tactical Officer Walter reported. "The EM interference is scrambling our targeting systems." The shrikes hunt by electromagnetic resonance. Lyxa's mental voice carried urgent knowledge. But they can be confused. "Alex, if you can modulate our engine output to match the nebula's harmonic frequency—" "Already on it," Alex replied, his hands working in perfect synchronization with her thoughts. The Odyssey's engines began to sing in harmony with the nebula's natural electromagnetic symphony, and the shrike's pursuit wavered as their prey suddenly became invisible to their primary senses. But their reprieve was short-lived. The creatures adapted quickly, switching to other hunting methods, and Alex found himself flying through a three-dimensional maze of snapping jaws and razor-sharp appendages. "Hull breach on Deck 7, Kowalski shouted. "Emergency bulkheads are holding, but we can't take much more of this." That's when Lyxa did something unexpected. She stood up from her support chair, her hands moving to the ship's shield control systems, and began to sing. It wasn't a sound that human ears could properly process. It was mathematics given voice, harmonics that resonated through the ship's hull and into the surrounding space. The Odyssey's shields began to fluctuate in complex patterns, creating interference waves that confused the shrike's sensory organs. "What are you doing?" Alex asked, even as he used the distraction to thread the ship through a particularly narrow passage. "Singing the old songs," Lyxa replied, her voice layered with melodies that spoke of star birth and the deep cold between galaxies. "My people were not warriors, but we learned to speak with the creatures of the void. These shrikes are lost children, separated from their spawning grounds by the nebula's formation. I am apologizing for our intrusion." The effect was immediate. The shrike's aggressive hunting patterns shifted, becoming more like an escort formation. They guided the Odyssey through the most dangerous passages, their bioluminescent patterns creating a path of living light through the nebula's heart. "Incredible," whispered Dr. Reyes from the science station. "She's actually communicating with them. The resonance patterns suggest a form of empathic contact." Alex felt a surge of admiration for Lyxa that had nothing to do with her exotic beauty or her irreplaceable knowledge. In that moment, watching her transform predators into guides through the simple power of understanding, he saw her as she truly was. Not just a survivor of an extinct species, but a navigator whose skills transcended anything he'd ever imagined. The shrikes led them to the nebula's edge, where stable space resumed and the stars shone clear and bright. As the creatures faded back into the electromagnetic storms, Lyxa swayed on her feet, exhausted by the effort of maintaining the psychic connection. Alex caught her before she could fall, and for a moment they stood close together, her alien warmth pressed against his chest. Her patterns flickered weakly but steadily, and when she looked up at him, her star-like eyes held depths of emotion that transcended species barriers. "Thank you," he said softly, "for saving us, for trusting me to navigate through that." "We saved each other," she replied, her mental voice carrying overtones of something deeper than gratitude. "In my people's tradition, when navigators share dangerous passages, they become bound by more than duty. They become—" She trailed off, but Alex felt the emotional resonance of the untranslated concept. A bond that was part partnership, part friendship, and part something for which humans had no adequate word. "I know," he said, surprising himself with the certainty in his voice. "I feel it too." Captain Harrow's voice over the comm broke the moment. "Well done, both of you, but we're not clear yet. Long-range sensors are picking up Concord signatures at the edge of the system. Looks like Commander Vren found our trail." Alex helped Lyxa back to her chair and returned to his console, but something fundamental had changed between them during their passage through the nebula. The trust that had been growing since her rescue had deepened into something more complex, more binding. They weren't just navigator and passenger anymore. They were partners in the truest sense, their skills and instincts interweaving in ways that made them stronger together than either could be alone. The next passage will be more dangerous, Lyxa warned, as Alex plotted their course toward the sanctuary world. The deep paths beyond this system lead through regions where space itself remembers the wounds of ancient wars. Then we'll face it together, Alex replied, and meant every word. Behind them, the first of Commander Vren's interceptors emerged from hyperspace, beginning the next phase of a pursuit that was becoming as much about the future of galactic exploration as it was about one Varyni survivor and the human navigator who'd chosen to protect her. The sanctuary world awaited, but the path to reach it would test every skill they possessed and every bond they'd forged in the darkness between stars. The Meridian Station hung in space like a jeweled spider web, its trade halls and diplomatic sectors buzzing with the commerce and politics of a dozen different species. Alex guided the Odyssey toward one of the lesser-used docking bays, hoping their battered salvage ship would blend in among the freight haulers and independent traders that frequented this part of the station. "We need supplies and repairs," Captain Harrow explained as they went through the docking procedures. "And this is as neutral as territory gets in Concord space. If we're lucky, we can resupply and be gone before Vren tracks us here." Lyxa sat beside Alex at the navigation console, her support frame abandoned now that her strength was slowly returning. Her patterns had grown brighter over the past few days, responding to some combination of improved nutrition, proper atmosphere, and Alex suspected their growing emotional connection. "Something feels wrong," she whispered in his mind as they watched the docking procedures complete. "The resonance patterns from the station, there are too many minds focused on us." Alex frowned, checking his sensor readings. Everything looked normal. Standard traffic control, routine security scans, the usual bureaucratic noise of a major trading hub. But he'd learned to trust Lyxa's perceptions, which operated on levels his purely human senses couldn't access. "Captain," he said quietly, "I think we might be walking into a trap." Before Harrow could respond, the station's comm system crackled to life with a familiar voice. "Odyssey, this is Commander Vren. You are cleared for immediate departure to Docking Bay 7, where a diplomatic party awaits to discuss terms for the peaceful transfer of the Varyni specimen." "Specimen," Alex growled, his hands already moving toward the emergency undocking procedures. "Belay that," Harrow commanded. "Let's hear what he has to say. Sometimes negotiation works better than running." Alex wanted to argue, but the captain was right. They couldn't keep running forever, and their supplies were running dangerously low. Maybe they could find some middle ground that would protect Lyxa while satisfying the Concord's bureaucratic needs. Docking Bay 7 was larger than their usual berths, designed for diplomatic vessels and VIP transports. Commander Vren waited with a small entourage, 2 junior officers and a tall, pale woman in the robes of a Concord historical researcher. But it was the woman who caught Alex's attention, not for her official credentials, but for the way her eyes fixed on Lyxa with the hungry intensity of a collector eyeing a prized artifact. Captain Harrow, Vren's scaled features arranged themselves into what might have been a diplomatic smile. "Thank you for accepting our invitation to discuss this matter reasonably." "We're listening," Harrow replied, though Alex noticed the captain's hand resting casually near his sidearm. "The situation is quite simple. Miss Lyxa represents an unprecedented opportunity for historical and scientific research. The Concord Xenoarchaeology Division has been preparing for precisely this possibility for decades. Decades Lyxa's mental voice carried cold anger they knew they have always known. "What do you mean, preparing?" Alex stepped forward, his navigator's training forgotten in the face of a more primal protective instinct. The pale woman, Dr. Meridia Cross, according to her identification badge, spoke for the first time. "The Varyni extinction event has been the subject of intensive study for over 2 centuries. We've been developing containment protocols, research methodologies, and extraction techniques specifically designed to maximize the recovery of their genetic memories. Extraction techniques. The words tasted bitter in Alex's mouth. Oh, yes, Dr. Cross continued with academic enthusiasm. The genetic memory storage used by the Varyni is incredibly sophisticated, but also quite fragile. Without proper care, the information degrades rapidly. We estimate that Ms. Lyxa's memories have already suffered significant data loss during her centuries in stasis. Immediate intervention is required to preserve what remains. They speak of me as if I were not here, Lyxa observed, her patterns flickering with distress. And this intervention, Alex said slowly, what would it involve? Commander Vren exchanged glances with Dr. Cross before responding. Complete neural mapping, genetic sequencing, and memory core extraction. The process is intensive, but we would ensure the subject experiences minimal discomfort. You're talking about dissecting her. Alex's voice carried the flat tone of barely controlled rage. We're talking about preserving the accumulated knowledge of the galaxy's greatest exploration civilization, Dr. Cross countered. The Varyni star maps alone could revolutionize interstellar travel. Think of the commercial applications, navigator, the strategic advantages for the Concord, the unparalleled scientific breakthroughs. This is a chance to reclaim centuries of lost progress. Now you begin to understand. Lyxa's mental voice carried a profound ancient sadness, a weariness born of witnessing this pattern countless times across countless civilizations. This is how it began for my people. The lust for knowledge, twisted into a lust for control. Alex's hand instinctively went to Lyxa's arm, a silent promise of protection, a physical anchor for her fragile hope. There will be no extraction, he stated, his voice ringing with absolute certainty. Lyxa is not a specimen. She is a person. She is my friend, and she's under our protection. Commander Vren's diplomatic facade crumbled, replaced by a scowl that distorted his scaled features. Navigator Carter, you are interfering with a direct Concord directive. This is not merely a scientific endeavor. This is a matter of galactic security and scientific advancement on a scale you cannot possibly comprehend. No, Lyxa's mental voice cut through the tension, stronger now, infused with a new, fiery resolve. Her patterns pulsed with defiance. It is a matter of control. You fear what we found in the deep paths. You fear the freedom that true exploration brings, the truths that lie beyond your neatly defined borders. Dr. Cross scoffed, a dismissive sound that grated on Alex's nerves. Nonsense. The Varyni were a threat to galactic stability. Their reckless pursuit of knowledge, their disregard for established protocols, led to unforeseen consequences, anarchy, instability, and ultimately their own demise. Unforeseen by you, Lyxa countered, her patterns flaring with a fierce, almost blinding light. We sought to understand the universe, not to control it. We sought harmony with its fundamental forces. You, Concord, seek to control everything: information, travel, even thought. You sealed the deep paths, you rewrote history to demonize us, and you silenced my people because our discoveries challenged your very authority, your narrow view of existence. Captain Harrow stepped forward, his hand now firmly on his sidearm, his knuckles white. Let's be perfectly clear, Commander. We are not turning over any member of our crew. Lyxa is under our protection, and that is non-negotiable. Vren's eyes narrowed, flickering with predatory anger. You understand the implications of this, Captain Harrow? You will be declared outlaws, enemies of the Concord. Every ship, every station, every world under Concord jurisdiction will be authorized to apprehend you on sight. Your ship will be forfeit, your crew imprisoned, and the Varyni specimen will still be recovered. We've been outlaws since we left the Varyni megastructure, Commander, Alex retorted, a surge of adrenaline sharpening his senses. And we'll take our chances. You don't know what you're dealing with. Suddenly, the lights in the massive docking bay flickered erratically, then dimmed to an emergency glow. A low, resonant hum vibrated through the floor plates, growing in intensity, a deep, rhythmic pulse that seemed to shake the very foundations of the station. Sylis's calm, melodic voice, clear as a bell, echoed in Alex's mind. The way station is preparing to jump. I have rerouted power from Meridian Station's auxiliary generators. It will create a momentary distraction. Navigator, now is your chance. Now! Alex shouted, pulling Lyxa toward the Odyssey's open airlock with a strength he didn't know he possessed. Harrow and his crew were already moving, a well-oiled machine reacting to a silent command. They scrambled back into their ship with practiced efficiency. Vren and Cross, momentarily stunned and disoriented by the sudden power fluctuations, reacted too late, their shouts of alarm swallowed by the rising hum. As the Odyssey's airlock hissed shut, sealing them inside, the entire docking bay plunged into near-total darkness, then erupted in a shower of sparks and crackling energy as critical systems overloaded, unable to handle the unexpected drain. "They're sabotaging the station!" Vren roared, his voice thick with fury amplified by the emergency comms. "Stop them! Do not let them escape!" But the Odyssey was already undocking, its powerful engines flaring to life, shaking the very structure of the bay. Alex, with Lyxa's almost ethereal guidance flowing directly into his mind, expertly navigated the ship through the now chaotic debris-strewn docking bay, dodging bewildered freight haulers and emergency vehicles scrambling in the dim light. They were a ghost in the machine, guided by an ancient intelligence. "Where in the hells are we going?" Harrow demanded as they cleared the station's perimeter, the Odyssey vibrating with the strain of its maximum burn. To the sanctuary world Lyxa projected, her mental voice filled with a profound sense of purpose, a deep, ancient longing. "Sylis has given us the final coordinates. But the path, it is the most dangerous of all. It requires a harmony that only we can achieve, together." The Odyssey jumped into hyperspace, leaving the crippled Meridian station behind, a tiny, glowing speck lost in the vastness. The journey was a blur of calculated risks and near catastrophes, a cosmic dance on the knife edge of existence. Lyxa's vast genetic memories, combined with Alex's intuitive navigation and daring, allowed them to traverse sections of the deep paths that defied conventional understanding, regions of space that twisted reality itself. They navigated through regions of inverted gravity where stars fell upwards, slipped past stellar nurseries, where nascent stars screamed in their fiery birth, their raw energy almost overwhelming. They even briefly entered a pocket dimension where time flowed differently, existing for what felt like moments while outside. Days passed. During these increasingly harrowing passages, Lyxa's strength grew exponentially. The flow of information between her and Alex deepened, becoming less a whisper and more a vast, intricate symphony of shared consciousness. He began to see the universe through her eyes, not just as a collection of cold stars and distant planets, but as a vast, interconnected tapestry of energy, life, and meaning. He understood the Varyni's profound reverence for the deep paths, but not merely as shortcuts through space, but as sacred conduits to understanding the fundamental nature of existence, pathways to enlightenment. One day, as they emerged from a particularly harrowing passage through a dark matter anomaly, Lyxa's patterns blazed with an intensity that almost overwhelmed him, a dazzling supernova in his mind. "We are here, Alex, the sanctuary world. The long journey is over." Through the viewports, a sight of breathtaking, impossible beauty unfolded. A gas giant, swirling with emerald and sapphire hues, vibrant as a living jewel, orbited a binary star system, its twin suns casting long, shifting shadows across its surface. Around the magnificent gas giant, a shimmering ring of habitable moons glowed with vibrant, untamed ecosystems, verdant with alien flora and fauna. But it was the structures on the largest moon that truly captured their attention. Ancient Varyni cities, built not on the landscape but into the very landscape itself, seamlessly integrated with the mountains and valleys, glowing with a soft internal light. They were not ruins, but living cities, maintained by automated systems for centuries, waiting. "Incredible," Harrow breathed, his usual gruffness and cynicism replaced by a look of pure, unadulterated awe. "It's a paradise, a hidden Eden." As they approached, a single elegant Varyni vessel emerged from the shimmering atmosphere of the largest moon. It was smaller than the Odyssey, sleek and almost impossibly graceful, its hull shimmering with the same silver-blue luminescence as Lyxa's skin. It moved with a silent, inherent understanding of the cosmos. "A greeting party," Lyxa said, her mental voice trembling with a profound, almost overwhelming emotion. They waited, they always waited, for us. The Varyni ship hailed them, its message not in spoken words, but in a complex series of iridescent light patterns and resonant frequencies, a dance of pure energy. Lyxa translated, her voice choked with tears, tears of joy and relief that streamed down her face, mingling with her luminous patterns. They say, "Welcome home, daughter of the deep paths. Welcome, brave humans who carried the light through the long dark. Your journey is honored." The Odyssey landed gently in a sprawling Varyni spaceport, its ancient landing pads humming to life as if expecting them, its arrival a preordained event. As the ramp lowered, a delegation of Varyni figures emerged from the alien ship, their luminous patterns pulsing with joy and relief, their forms shifting subtly with emotion. They were not many, perhaps a few hundred, but they were alive, their eyes holding the same star-like depths as Lyxa's, ancient and wise. Lyxa, her patterns now a brilliant, steady glow that illuminated the landing bay, walked down the ramp, no longer needing her support frame. She moved with a newfound grace, a lightness of being. She was met by an elder Varyni, whose patterns were a kaleidoscope of ancient wisdom and experience, a living library of their civilization's history. They embraced, a silent communion of shared memories, endured suffering and enduring hope, a reunion across centuries. Alex watched, a lump forming in his throat, tears stinging at his own eyes. He had saved her a single life, and in doing so, he had helped save an entire civilization, rekindling a lost legacy. He felt a profound sense of purpose, a quiet pride. Later, in a grand hall filled with the soft, melodic hum of Varyni technology, Lyxa stood before her reunited people, Alex and the Odyssey crew by her side, a testament to the unlikely alliance. The hall itself was a living wonder, its walls shimmering with light, its acoustics amplifying Lyxa's mental voice, translated by the Varyni elder for the benefit of the humans into a clear, resonant speech. For centuries, Lyxa's mental voice resonated through the hall, echoing with the weight of time. We have been scattered, isolated, our knowledge hidden, our purpose forgotten by the wider galaxy. The Concord sought to erase us, to control the flow of information, to dictate the very nature of discovery, to limit the potential of all sentient life. Her patterns blazed, and Alex felt a surge of profound pride, a warmth spreading through him. But they failed. Because of the courage of a human navigator, Alex Carter, and his crew, because of their unwavering belief in freedom and discovery, the deep paths are open once more. Our legacy endures. A murmur of approval, a soft hum of agreement, rippled through the assembled Varyni. "The Concord will not give up, Lyxa," Captain Harrow interjected, his voice practical, ever grounded in the realities of galactic politics. "They'll come for this place. They'll try to shut down the deep paths again, or worse, weaponize them." "Let them come," Lyxa replied, her voice firm, resolute, resonating with newly found strength. "We are no longer alone, and we have knowledge they cannot comprehend, truths that transcend their limited understanding. The deep paths are not just routes through space. They are pathways to understanding the universe in ways the Concord can only dream of. We will share this knowledge, not to conquer, not to control, but to enlighten, to set free." Alex stepped forward, his heart swelling with determination. "The Odyssey and her crew are ready to help, Lyxa. We've seen firsthand what the Concord does, the fear they sow, the lives they crush. We believe in what the Varyni represent, true exploration, true discovery, the boundless potential of life." The elder Varyni turned to Alex, its patterns shimmering with ancient wisdom and deep gratitude. "You have proven yourself worthy, Navigator Carter. You are not just a friend to the deep paths. You are a bridge between our peoples, a testament to the unforeseen connections that bind the universe. Together we will show the galaxy what it means to truly explore, to live without the chains of fear and ignorance." Over the next few months, the sanctuary world became a vibrant hub of activity, a beacon of hope on the fringes of Concord space. The Odyssey crew, now honorary members of the Varyni community, helped establish advanced defenses, integrating human technological ingenuity with Varyni systems. Alex and Lyxa worked tirelessly, their bond deepening with every shared discovery. Lyxa's genetic maps flowing into Alex's mind, combined with his intuitive understanding and daring, allowed them to chart new, deep paths, some of which led to previously unimagined dimensions, to forms of life that defied conventional biology, to secrets of the cosmos that had been hidden for millennia. Word of the Varyni's miraculous return, and their unlikely human allies began to spread through the galaxy, whispered on the fringes of Concord space, carried by sympathetic traders and rogue data packets. Independent traders seeking new routes, disillusioned scientists yearning for unfettered knowledge, and even rogue elements within the Concord itself began to seek out the sanctuary world, drawn by the irresistible promise of true exploration and freedom from the Concord's stifling authoritarian control. Commander Vren and Dr. Cross, despite their best efforts and the vast resources of the Concord, found themselves increasingly frustrated, their mission a humiliating failure. Every attempt to track the Odyssey or penetrate the newly activated deep paths was met with baffling failure, their advanced technology and rigid protocols utterly baffled by the combined ingenuity of human intuition and Varyni ancient knowledge. The Concord, once seemingly invincible in its dominion, found its authority subtly but irrevocably challenged by a growing movement of explorers and free thinkers, a silent rebellion stirring in the deep dark. One day, as Alex and Lyxa stood on a balcony overlooking one of the sprawling Varyni cities, watching the twin suns set in a spectacular blaze of orange and purple, Lyxa turned to him. Her luminous patterns shifted, reflecting the vibrant colors of the dying light, a living aurora. The deep paths are truly open now, Alex, and the galaxy is vast, filled with wonders still unknown, waiting to be discovered. And we'll explore them together, Alex said, taking her hand, his fingers intertwining with hers, a familiar comfort. The bond between them, forged in danger, tested by fear, and deepened by shared purpose, was now something profound and unbreakable. It was love, yes, a love that defied species and convention, but also a partnership that transcended the ordinary, a destiny woven together. The Odyssey, now refitted with state-of-the-art Varyni technology, its hull gleaming with new purpose, and crewed by a vibrant mix of humans and Varyni, stood ready in the spaceport. Its mission was no longer salvage, but boundless discovery. Alex, the former navigator of a humble salvage ship, was now a pioneer, a bridge between two worlds, leading the way into a new era of galactic exploration, an age of true wonder. Lyxa, the last daughter of the deep paths, was no longer lost, no longer a specimen, but found, her people's legacy rekindled, their dreams of exploration soaring once more into the infinite void. The Concord might still seek to control the stars, to impose its rigid order on the universe, but Alex and Lyxa, together with their growing network of allies, were ready to show them that the true spirit of the galaxy lay not in dominion, but in the boundless, joyous pursuit of the unknown. The journey had just begun, and the universe, in all its infinite, dazzling glory, awaited their touch, their understanding, and their shared dream.